All right, Landon, you are good to go.
All right. All right. Let's see. There we go. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be week 14 of our lesson series, and more importantly, this is block 2. So, just to explain what that means, if you weren't here last week, last week we went over the first challenge or the first block of building the foundation in what I consider are the most important steps for a profitable mindset and profitable habits. Now, as we go through this challenge, we're getting specific on building strategies, making sure that everything works. You're not just, in the right headspace, you're actually able to perform the proper skills needed for you to make a profit in the market. And that's what this week is about. It's specify your strategy, right? We're trying to hone down into our strategy and get it as specific as possible. So straight away, let's answer a simple question: why consistency matters, right? I've got a couple little bullet points. We'll go through that. Creates predictable outcomes, right? If we're not consistent, we can't predict what will come next, right? This isn't talking, daily or weekly time frames. This is talking monthly, possibly yearly, depending on how many trades you're taking, right? But if we're all over the place, or if we're, changing up our strategy, well, every strategy is going to have a different rate of return. So you could consistently lose if you're constantly changing strategies just because you're not in the right market for that strategy, right? And then stabilizes emotions. This is one that gets, I feel like, overlooked more than anything when it comes to being consistent. It's very easy to pass it off and say, well, if I study the markets and I know what confluences are where and how the price is going to react to them, it's very, very easy to convince yourself that that's how you're going to make money, because now you can quote unquote predict the market. And even if you get to a point where you're comfortable with losing in that kind of trading, I don't feel that newer traders will ever be able to get to a point where they're completely calm and comfortable with taking those losses unless they've had some sort of a mechanical strategy. Because a mechanical strategy basically says, here are your rules, here's where your entry goes, here's where your stop loss goes, here's where your take profit goes, and you do this every single day without changing anything, so you know that if you lose, it literally wasn't up to you. You followed the rules. And to make sure that you're not trading a losing strategy, we back test it, right? So back testing it is what, the third bullet point, boosts confidence. If we have the results from the data and we continue to do that, then it's going to give us the confidence that it will work out. And then finally, predictable risk management. Again, if we're using the same strategy, we can know how many ticks are going to be in our stop loss, or on average how big it's going to be, right? We know how much we're going to risk, so it's not all over the place. We can risk the same amount every time. Even if it's not the exact dollar amount, we can get it pretty close. So again, pretty simple overview of why we're going over specific strategies. And then on the other side of it, you have intuitive trading, right? This is that thing that I was just talking about, when it's like, well, if I know what the market's going to do, quote unquote know what it's going to do, why shouldn't I use that to my ability? And I'm not saying don't, and that's why I have it written down here. There are times that you should use outside skills, right? So if you see your trade setup, but you know that it's going into news, that's a time that you should be comfortable with saying, well, maybe I shouldn't take this trade, because while it is in my rules and it fits the setup, it's not in the same conditions that all my other trades were in, right? It's during a point where there's going to be a lot of volume that gets sucked into the market, and there's a pretty good chance that you could get stopped out even if the strategy was there, right? And then another thing is forced over leverage, right? What I mean by that is, if you're forced to risk too much, you need to make the proper decision to step away. So for example, if you're trading futures, right, we have contracts. Contracts are difficult to size in properly if you're trying to do a dollar amount risk and you have set take profits and set entries and stop losses, right? So let's say it's a 50 tick stop loss, right, on the NASDAQ, micro NASDAQ. It's a 50 point stop loss, sorry. Well, 50 points on the micro NASDAQ, right, that's about $100 for every contract you buy. Well, if you risk $150 a trade, it's impossible for you to risk $150 with 2 contracts or 1 contract. There's no half contract. So that's when I say it's important for you to say, well, I'll enter in with 1 contract, and I'll hope that it pulls back to fill the second one and dollar cost average in. But if it doesn't, you have to let it go. There's no point in any of your trading where you should be over leveraging by that much, right? Because that $150 over your stop loss, and again, hopefully this is making sense. You want to risk $150, but you're forced to risk $200 by risking $50 more than what you're used to, right? This is putting you at 33% over what you should lose on that trade. So if you lose that one and then you lose the next day, instead of losing 300, now you've lost 350. And those little losses add up. But if you risk 100, right, and it hopefully pulls back, but let's say it doesn't, and then it pushes up and it hits your TP, you're going to make less, and that will affect it, but I would rather you make a little less than lose more. Hopefully, maybe you have personal opinions on that and you'd rather do the inverse based on your win rate. But as an overall for new traders, I always tell them the same thing. Lose as little as possible, even if it means you're going to win a little less by not over leveraging, right? Now, when we want to use the mechanical skills is for everything else that is predictable. Right? The things I talked about with the intuitive skills, they were not predictable. Holidays, we don't know what's going to happen on holidays. Typically, it's low volume. News, it's the opposite. Typically, it's high volume. We don't know what will happen. Forcing over leverage. Again, you don't know if you're going to win or lose that trade. You may be losing more than what you should be. But the things we can predict are where we're going to enter, where we're going to exit, and where we're going to exit the trade for a profit or a take profit, right? That is when I say everybody should have mechanical rules every single time. You should not have a feeling-based take profit. You should not feel like the market's going a certain direction, so I'm going to enter here, right? It should be set in stone when you are just getting started. This is not, don't think this is a forever thing. This is building the foundation of where we want to get to from where we are, right? Now, rolling that over into the next one. Perfect. Straight inside week 2 challenge. I kept this one pretty short because most of the things we talked about, I've already talked about plenty of times in the past in other live streams, and this is mainly going over the challenges for these next 2 weeks after this one. So starting off, write down your strategy, right? We talked about why mechanical strategy is important, but we have to make sure that we can actually perform it. So if we don't have the rules written down in detail, then how are we going to know where our entry is and where our take profits and where our stop losses go every single time, right? You should have it visually written down, not just in the back of your head, so you're like, oh, well, this is my entry. That's kind of a recipe for disaster. After you write down your strategy, backtest and look for discrepancies. Way back, I want to say like week 3 or 4, like, several weeks ago, I had gone over a series or a lesson that I called judgment calls. This ties right back into that. So what judgment calls, for anybody that wasn't there, that's basically whenever you have a trade and everything lines up. Cool, you've got your rules written down, looks great, and you see your trade set up on the market, but there's something there that doesn't quite fit in your rules and you don't know what to do. And the example that I used whenever I was going over that one was, let's say your strategy says if you close above a certain, we'll say the 9 EMA. If you close above the 9 EMA, right, you look for longs. But if you close below the 9 EMA, you look for shorts, right? Pretty simple visual. But a discrepancy in that would be if it closes at the 9 EMA, like right on it. That can happen. It's not common, but it can happen. Those are the kind of discrepancies I want you to look for. So think about your strategy, have it written down so you can actually look at it and you can take little notes underneath it, right? Whether it be, on the computer or on paper, doesn't matter. And then go back through and back test it. And anytime you see a setup that fits the rules of your strategy, anytime you see one that you're just a little uncertain about, or even if you look at it and you're like, well, this doesn't look like it's going to work at all. Or there's a very obvious sign that it was not going to go in that direction. Like, let's say it's a perfect setup for you, but clearly the trend is going against you, right? Those are instances where you can take the time to add a little adjustments to the rules to make sure when you go to trade live, you don't have to make those decisions. The whole purpose for this week's challenge is to get rid of the decision making. We don't want to have to think, well, this is what I'm going to do this time and this is what I'm going to do next time. It should be, This is what I'm going to do every time. It should be the exact same, no little ifs, ands, or buts, okay? After we have that, we go to step 3, adjust to remain objective, right? So add in, and I kind of already went over this, but add in those extra rules to fill in the discrepancies, right? So yeah, already talked about this, but it's adding in those rules to make sure that you aren't making any judgment calls. We've already gone through, written down the strategy, we've back tested it, we've looked for any of those holes in our strategy. Now it comes to filling them in. And then finally, repeating all of this. This whole week is about consistency. It's not enough for you to just know how the market runs. It's not enough for you to know how to manage your risk properly. It's not enough for you to just be able to go into the markets and some days have a really good day, some days have a really bad day, right? We want to find the consistency in the market. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's gonna look a lot slower than it would if you were just kind of all over the place. Because especially if you're using funding accounts, it's very easy to get one big winner pass the account and then have one big loser and blow the account. That's very easy to slip into, and it looks like you're making progress because you are passing accounts, but you're blowing them just as quickly. In this little series that I'm doing, the whole goal is for you to pass the account and then slowly grow it. Whether that be that you're only making a little bit of profit some months and then other months, you might lose a little, but we're looking for the consistency and then we start to add more. We don't want to have this super complicated strategy where everything's moving in a million different ways, but on paper, when you go to back test it, it wins 90% of the time. All these things that sound great, but they're not realistic. They don't really happen in the market. It's just the back test that it looks like it happens, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I know this one was a little shorter. I'm going to pull up Reality. Is there anything over in those YouTube chats? Just to pause for a second.
Yeah, I don't see no chats over there. Not currently. Anybody got any questions, guys?
Any questions about this week? And remember, last week, let me see if I can. Last week, we were going over watching and waiting. Like I said, I'm going to get that short form video posted fairly soon here. But that was all about taking time away from the market and just watching. Right? We weren't taking any trades in specific. We weren't, looking to make any money at all. The whole goal was to remain objective from the market and find a strategy if you don't have one, or take the strategy you already have and just kind of watch it perform without you having any emotional stress. 1 second. Okay, gotcha. No problem. And then this week, after we've done that, because that was week 1 challenge, so we need to get through that first. This week, we're going over actually applying the strategy, right? We write down the rules for it, right? Back test it. Make sure everything's filled in. We're not making any guessing calls during the trading day that's going to lead to emotional distress. And then we repeat, rinse and repeat every single day. It's the same thing non-stop, okay? If there's no questions, I'm going to leave it there. Reality, one more time. Anybody have any questions about this week? Actually, you know what? I do want to ask really quick. Who was here last week? If anybody was here last week, can you go ahead and just, whether it be in the YouTube chat or the Discord chat? Jigsaw, okay. I remember him being there.
Yep. Crown's
Anybody
here.
that was there last week?
He was in YouTube. He was here last week.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, again, for you guys that were here, I want you to go ahead. Seriously, take these challenges seriously. Jigsaw, since I can see you over in the Discord chat, how has it been with you? I don't know if you've been completely removed from the market because I know you've been trading for a while, but have you taken it on to kind of watch the markets a little more, or are you still pretty active? I'm an overtrader. Well, listen, that was last week. We talked about that, trying to step away from the markets, not over trading. This week, well, listen, man, that's, take last week's challenge seriously. If you have to go back through, rewatch it. The last little bit was me just talking about the week 1 challenge. And then as soon as you can step away from the market, I promise you, you're going to feel a lot better about it. It's going to seem difficult at first, just like with anything, whether it be, an addiction, like there are far worse addictions than placing too many trades, of course, but they kind of all fall into the same realm of you're doing it when you shouldn't be, right? It's under that same guise of any time that you aren't doing it, you kind of feel like you should be. And in trading, it's really easy to wake up at 9:30 and look at those charts and be able to enter. Remember, this is a undefined landscape where we can place trades at any point. Yeah, exactly, right? It feels like, at any time you can just be placing a trade, you can make money, you can lose money at any time. It's unrestricted. But that's how we have so many people lose in this game. It's only when you start to realize, well, if there's no rules in the market, right? You have to decide when you enter, you have to decide when you lose, and you can do it at any time, or sorry, not lose, but leave the market. If you can decide when to do it whenever, you have to set those rules for yourself. Think about it like running a business, right? If you're running a business, there's no one there to tell you what to do, right? Unless you owe them money, right? That's different. But there's no one there to really, be watching over you. There's no boss. That's kind of the point. You don't have a boss when you run a business. Trading's the same way. We don't have a boss. Instead, we have the market. And the market is an unfeeling, emotionless being that its only goal is to represent what price is doing. Its goal is not to take your money. It's not at all. The goal is to represent what the price is doing. That's its only job. Our job is to make rules for ourselves and stick to them so that we know over the long run we're going to place more winning trades than we do losing trades. And we're going to have greater winning trades than we do losing trades. Right? Starts with stepping away from the market, looking at it objectively, knowing, hey, the market's not out to get me. Knowing, hey, the market, it doesn't want to take my money. It just wants to show me what's about to happen. Right? It has no feeling against you or for you. After we've gotten comfortable that the market's not out to get us, now we start to write those rules. We write down our strategy. We make sure that we're not having to make any emotional decisions during the market to open. And then we do that every single day without fail. And you know what? I'm going to pull this up for everybody.
Crown said over on the YouTube side, he said, trading but trying to be patient. Patience hurt me today. Got in so late it reversed, so today's lesson is where I need to be.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you feel like you're getting in late, make sure, I keep repeating it because it's so important, but write down those rules. There should never be, I'm going to be harsh with this, but you should never be in late. You should never be in early. There's no such thing as late and early. The market it opens at 9:30 for the New York session, but it's open before that, right? There is no late, there's no early, there's none of that. The only thing in the market is a representation of price. So when it comes to your strategy, you should only be on time every single time. That's all there should ever be, is on time. If I take a trade, I'm on time. If I exit that trade, I'm on time because I follow the rules. There's never a second in my mind where I say, oh, I should have gotten out a little earlier, or I should have gotten out a little later. That doesn't exist because it's not real. I can't go back in time. So why would I put in my head, oh, I should have done this? Because that one specific trade is never going to get repeated in the history of the market, right? That exact trade will never get repeated. So why would I put the assumption that I should have done something different? When I have the data that says, well, if I follow these rules, I'm going to get this return over this amount of time, why would I set the precedent that, oh, I should have done something different? That doesn't make sense. There's no late, there's no early, there's none of that. Now, to pause, what I have in front of you guys, this is my recent spreadsheet that I've been using. And I've shown this once before, but I see we've got more people in here, so I want to show it again. This is my risk management spreadsheet, right? This goes over exactly, so the first column, we'll just go over this column right here, the target column, right? This guy right here. This is how much I want to risk. So I use this for, quote unquote, the perfect world. So in a perfect world, on my losing trades, I'm going to lose 120, like we can see right here. And on my winning trades, or small winning trades, I'm going to win 120. And on my big winning trades, I'm going to win 360, and on my break-even trades, I'm going to win, lose nothing, right? This is a perfect world. This is kind of what I call the EV, the estimated value. And then the realized column right here is what actually happened. So you can see on this first day that I have jotted down, I got to get out with a little bit less. So I was risking a little bit less, and I got to save some money. Cool, is what it is. Right after it, I made a little more. This is a perfect example of what I try to replicate every time. I try to lose a little less on my losers, still following my rules, but you know, if I see something that's going to happen and I say, okay, well, clearly, you know, this is a time to move my stop loss, as long as it still fits in my rules, then I do so. And then on my winners, I get a little bit more out of them. And then break even, another one, you know, I lose $2. It's, you know, kind of, you know, it's okay. It's going to happen, more or less commission. But then on days like this, I made 41. Now, I don't remember how I made $41 on a break-even trade, but I'm guessing something happened. It was a mishap, somehow got out lucky. Lucky times do happen. But right after that, I only made $50, and I wrote down technical malfunction. I'm assuming my computer wasn't loading or something was going on, but I put that in there just so I know I didn't actually make a mistake. It was something with my computer I had no control over. This one, I did not write that down. Somehow I lost $50 and it was my fault. But I do this because now I'm 100% accountable for every single winner and loser. And up to date, we're up about $227 on this one account. And then across all of them, I believe we're up a little bit over $1,000. But its main point is to keep me accountable. If all I had was -1, and then +1, and then 0, like if that's all was there, well, that's great. It's the same as back testing. But it's not keeping me accountable. This right here, where it shows me exactly what I lost or exactly what I on days when I should have made more, you know, over double, that's going to keep me accountable. And then, you know, on these accounts, I made 200 instead of 120. So it made up for this one little, you know, technical malfunction. But the day after, it sure didn't. I'm losing, you know, an extra $45 on top of the 50. It's all about accountability, right? I'm going to stop for a second. Happy, you know, got to show you guys this. I'm going to do one more time and ask, does anybody have any questions about this week's challenge? Again, I do want you to actually follow it and, you know, DM me, you know, leave a message in the chat, you know, whatever you'd like to let me know that you actually did follow the challenge. And I'm hoping to see more and more people. But any questions for anybody?
Not seeing nothing on the social media side yet.
Not a problem. Well, again, I'll go ahead. I'll call it there for you guys. You know what? Here, I'll make this big one more time. If you'd like to take a screenshot, remember this is all to help you guys, right? If you feel like you have any questions about it, again, DM me. You know, if you have any suggestions for it, you know, if you feel like some of the things that I said in here, you know, you found to be, you know, I won't say not true, but you found better ways to do it. I'm very, very open to all of that. I'm learning just along with you guys. I just try to relay some of the information that has helped me. But again, I'm going to leave it there. Take any screenshots that you'd like, or I'll probably post it in the main channel as well for everybody to have. Hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you. Oh, do we have anything, Rowdy? Yeah,
Crown said over on YouTube, simple, just focus on being mechanical.
Yes, exactly. In the beginning, this is not forever. Don't think this is forever. And some of you may already be past this, which is great. You know, if you have some profit, this is for right now, for the next few months even, right? A few months is not a very long time when it comes to doing this for, you know, hopefully forever, right? I'm hoping that's why everybody's here, is because they enjoy trading. It's just to get the habits built. It's to build that mindset, right? Not forever. Okay, guys? So thank you for joining me, everybody. We'll be back here next week. I know this week was at 1 o'clock instead of 1:30. I recently had a job change. I went to a new restaurant, a little bit nicer one. That's, you know, something in my personal life. But I'm having to do these a little earlier because of it. So I'm hoping that's not a big issue for everybody. It doesn't seem like it is. I'm seeing plenty of people over in the voice channel. So I'll see you guys next week, same day, same time. And we're going over the week 3 challenge. And then there will be one more after that. So everybody have a great day. I'll see you around.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Landon. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, guys, stay consistent out there.
Cheers, reality.